Mic testing 1, 2, test, mic test. Making sure there's no issue with the sound. Mic testing 1, 2, test, mic test. Making sure there's no issue with the sound. Sound is coming good. Hello, welcome and namaste. This is Moksha Mukti Apollo speaking regarding your questions, comment, concern that you typed on a comment section. And any questions, comment, concern, simply type your questions, comment, concern on the comment section, and Moksha Mukti shall speak regarding that. Moksha Mukti is simply pointing you to the source that you already have available within you right now, in this ever-perpetuating present moment. Hello, namaste. This is Moksha Mukti Apollo. Speaking regarding your questions, comment, concerns that you type on the comment section. And Moksha Mukti shall speak regarding that. Finally, we have Romain Evangelista. And Romain Evangelista. Hello, Romain. Thanks for joining. Namaste. And Romain writes, Hola. Hello. How are you today? My scarf is falling off. My scarf is falling off. Any questions, comment, concerns? Olga. Hello, Olga. Namaste. Thanks for joining. I am doing well. How are you? I hear a dog barking. Neighbor's dog is barking. Bryce Jones. Hello, Bryce. Thanks for joining. Namaste. And Bryce Rice. Good morning. Good morning. It's morning in the US. So you must be from the US. Central Time. I think almost past noon, almost afternoon in the East Coast, but we have Dinesh Timal Sena. Hello, Dinesh. Thanks for joining. Namaste. And Dinesh writes, why do you linguistically join to source since it is subjective for experience of life? It is like explaining taste of water, isn't it? Yes. Source is infinite. Source is limitless. Source is formless. Source is ever pervading. And you can only experience it. However, in the recognition of source, it expresses out. And only thing that we have available is verbal and non-verbal communication. And through non-verbal and verbal communication, Moksha Mukti is simply expressing the source, expressing the existence, expressing itself. John Coleman writes, Hello, John. Thanks for joining. Namaste. He writes A. Let me bring this closer to my. John writes A. I think I may need a reading glass. And John Klumas writes source. Olga writes, I am good here in Washington. What is love? I know what is love for my son. I love my dog, but I don't think I ever loved any of my men. Always put my son as priority before any. Certainly the love that you're speaking for your family, the blood relation love stemming from your physiological source, always that love seems intimate because you are physically intimate with that person from the birth. And from the birth you nurture that individual, you grew that individual, you taught that individual. There's a strong bond, especially between mother and son. There's a strong bond and there's a strong connection between that. So obviously that is more that is perceived as the strong love or the love. And the man you love is usually attraction. You see, attraction created by the mind. It's a chemical attraction. When a crush occurs, crush can turn into love, or crush is a crush. And when love occurs, it's a chemical process in the body that usually lasts for 4 years and it wears off. That is the chemical process. However, in the society they have taught you to love in that way that you love one another. In order to coexist in the society, you love one another, and there is a relationship that is created by the society, created by the mind, and in that relationship there is a love involved, you see. And that love that you're mentioning is the love for men is based on the image. You have certain image in your mind about the men, and that as long as the image is in your mind, that you will love that person. And as long as that image is not in your mind, you don't love that person. That is the coming from the thought level, you see. And the image changes. Like you met, you have certain image, and that person may project that kind of image onto you, and you love that person. And after a while, then that person, you have changed your image, because the mind is dynamic, thought is dynamic, it changes. And when it changes, then that person is no longer compatible to you, no longer up to your standard, then or up to your taste or up to your image, and then that love fades away. You see, that is the chemical process that's going on. But Moksha Mukti is pointing you to the source. In the source, the first love is to yourself. The love is to yourself, because the source is the love. It is not loving someone, it is the love. Existence is expressing through the source the love. It is love. And the love you mentioning is the conditioned love. And the love that you love yourself in the recognition of the source is the unconditional love. Bryce Jones writes, if you have a life of drugs, is it much harder for yourself to have a better life? Again, the term, Bryce, the term, when you say better, the term better is provided to you by the society. So when the society thinks that this way of life is better and that way of the life is better, that is conditioned upon your mind, that is given to you. And of course, in the society level, if you do drugs, certainly there you may miss deadlines, delays, you may slow down your mind, and you may not be able to perform up to the par that society is imposing on you or asking on you to propose. And certainly society say, you're not better. And Moksha Mukti does not recommend the life of drugs, you see. But if you have experienced drugs, if you have already done it, experience it and see it, and try to come to the source. Give attention to the source. Your thought drug that you're doing is demanded by the thought. Thought is demanding the drugs. You may say, well, no, I have a craving for that, but the craving is actually coming from your thought. So the craving that you feel in the body is enhanced or exaggerated by the mind, and the exaggeration becomes severe. And when you give attention to the thought, you demand that drug and you crave for that drug. But what Moksha Mukti is pointing, giving your attention to the source, when you give attention to the source, you see, Moksha Mukti is high naturally. He doesn't need to do a drug, you see. Roy and Hargrove Wallace. I'm trying the best to pronounce your name. Roy and good morning. Thanks for joining. Namaste. Roy and Ro writes, most don't love themselves. How does one begin to know if you love yourself? Again, let me point out there are two types of love you're talking about. One is the unconditional love, that is the source, that is already available to you right now in this moment, and that is the pure love, or that is the love. Then the other type of love is coming from your thought, is imposed upon you by the society, that this is the way to love. This is the way to love your parents, this is the way to love your siblings, this is the way to love your friends, this is the way to love your neighbors, and so on and so forth. That is those are the two types of love, right? And so the learned love, conditioned upon you, imposed upon you by the society, that love changes. That love is conditional. In this condition, I'm going to love this person. In that, I'm not going to love this person. So one thought arises and say, I'm going to love this person. Then the next thought arises and that thought says, I'm going to hate this person. You see, even within the family, there is a love and hatred. You see, and that is created by your own thought. And what Moksha Mukti is pointing is you to give your attention to the source for you to experience. You see. Leland Cooper. Hello, Leland. How are you? Thanks for joining. Namaste. You're back. So is Olga and other of you. I remember you. I had a problem with hypersexuality in the past, which led to me becoming a I'm not understanding what is the word. I release myself of my orbs in order to gain control of impulses. Sometimes I still find it. So yeah. Leland, what you describe about the impulse is created by your thought, because you see, thought is dynamic. Thought is dynamic. Thought moves fast. Well, it's not as fast as the source. A thought is actually slow, but thought can rapidly speed. Still, it is slower than the source, but there can be speed created by the thought, and that the craving, whatever, is created by the thought. You see, there is an insecurity in you, there is a fear in you, there is something in you that is caused by actually being away from the source. When you are away from the source, when you are away from your home, which is the source, then that creates something like you're missing something, and you're trying to fulfill that missing. Actually, what you're missing is missing to be home with your source. You see, you're missing to recognizing the source, you're missing to experience the source, and you're missing to be here now with the source. When you're missing that, it creates that a craving for you, and the thought creates, thought demands that, and thought says, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. You see, and the thought is doing that, and thought is making you hyper sexual. You see, and you can gain back the control when you give your attention not so much to the thought but to the source. And Moksha Mukti has already pointed out, source seems weak, source seems negligible, source seems like it is nothing, yet source is everything, source is omnipotent, source is everywhere, source is infinity, source is limitless. And when mind actually is powerful illusion, it has a power, so it is sucking up your attention and creating all this craving in you. Dinesh writes, can you please enlighten about Kundalini awakening? Dinesh, Moksha Mukti is not here to talk about Kundalini awakening. Awakening happens on its own, naturally. That is the natural way. And when you use artificial way to awaken, such as Kundalini awakening, or meditation, or yoga, or sadhana, or any other means, artificial means, those means may give you the feel or the experience of awakening, but that is, you will not awaken. You will get the feel of it, awakening. You may have extraordinary experiences, you may experience ecstasy, you may experience extreme happiness, you may experience epiphany by doing all this method. However, by doing any of the method, you would not awaken, you will not really awaken. That is just the pseudo awakening, synthetic awakening that you can experience with those methods. So Moksha Mukti is not going to speak regarding that. Olga writes, it's funny, but every relationship lasted about 6 years. After about 4 years, I lose my interest in a partner. I can stay with that person but feel very lonely. Feel like that. Yeah, certainly. Moksha Mukti pointed out earlier, the chemical love lasts for 4 years, because that is the physiological effect. That is the way the universe designed humans, for them to mate and continue the human population. Otherwise, this body dies, there is no more continuity of the humans. To continue the humans, universe has placed that mechanism for you to at least stay together for 4 years, at least have love, that chemical process for 4 years, and after that it wears off. And that if that person does not carry up according to your image, or if there is no common ground, then that relationship falls off, because that is relationship is created by the mind. You see. And the loneliness is again stem from the thought. You see, you're giving power to that person, and of course, there is no physically intimacy. That certainly feels lonely. That is in a physiological level. That is 10%, and you can survive that. But what is causing you problem, what is causing you more lonely, is stemming from your own thought. So remember the mushroom effect? In the stem level, in a physiological, there is loneliness. But the mushroom, the thought mind, creates the big ball, big mushroom head. And your loneliness becomes unbearable because of that thought. And what Moksha Mukti is pointing you to direct your attention to the source. And when you put your attention to the source, that mushroom falls off, because that is just created by the mind, a thought. And thought appears and disappears in the mind. And when you hang on to that thought, when you try to control that, then what happens? A thought is actually controlling. You think you're trying to control the thought. You're trying to control something through the thought, but actually thought is controlling you. You see? John Coleman writes, without love, even air can breathe. No flower can grow. It is source of all life. It is source of sustenance. It is all human projection. Somebody hating is also because they love. Again, John, let me point out two love. One is the natural love, that is the expression of the source, that is the expression of the existence as loving. When you recognizing the source that you are loving, that is the expression of the source or the existence or the universe, you see, that expresses that love, right? And then the other type of love you're talking about is stemming from the thought or the conditioned mind that is imposed upon you by your society. This is the way you should love your parents. This is the way you should love your spouse. This is the way you should love your romantic partner. This is the way. So all those imposition is imposed upon you through teachings, through movies, through online radios. Everybody's talking about that, right? All those information has been conditioned you, and through that conditioning, you see love and hate, both love and hatred, because without the hatred, love cannot exist in that realm, and without the love, hatred cannot exist. So both has to be present in this thought level, in the duality form, because thought is dual. In that thought level, when you're thinking, then both exist. Love and hatred both exist. But the real love, or the source that is love itself, is the love that is giving attention. You can experience when you give attention to the source, you see. And that love is unconditional love. But the other kind of love is conditional love, and in there is a hatred and love, both, you see. Because one thought can make you loving, and the next thought can make you hateful. Roya and writes, thank you, John. I guess what Roya likes what John wrote. Yeah, that is again, you're feeding to the thought. Thought is wanting that. That is the nature of the thought, you see. But that is not what Moksha Mukti pointing out. The Moksha Mukti is pointing you to give your attention to the source, you see. And even for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, even for a minute, give your attention to the source. And thought falls off, or the attachment to the thought falls off. And when the attachment to the thought falls off, then there is no love or hatred. Simply is the expression of the existence. Simply is the expression of the source, you see. And but the thought, within the thought, there's like onions of layers, trying to say, well, this is the way you need to do something, this is the way you need to do something. Thought tries to provide all sorts of solutions, and Moksha Mukti is not offering any types of solution. He is simply pointing you to give your attention to the source, for you to create possibility, for you to recognize the source, for you to experience the source, for you to see the source, and express that love, unconditional love. And Jada Lynn, hello Jada, you're back. Thanks for joining. Namaste. What do you mean by the source? The source cannot be described by the words. Source can only be pointed. The source is already within you now, and the source is observing everything. Source is even observing your own thoughts. In the source, thoughts appears and disappear. and the source is available to you right now. There is no disconnection between you and the source, or you and anything. There is no disconnection. Everything is connected. Everything is one. And source can only be experienced. And Moksha Mukti is pointing you to give your attention to that, because what is happening there, when you ask the question, what is the source, that is stemming from the thought. Thought is sucking all your energy. Thought is sucking all your attention. When thought sucks all your attention, what happens? It takes you into thought level. It goes into circle, like a merry-go-round, you see. And thought creates one solution for one problem. It creates problem for you, then it creates also solution. And then after a while, then you realize, well, that solution worked for me then, but it didn't work for me because the world is dynamic, everything is changing now. Then the mind creates another problem and you search for another solution. It goes around and round like that. And all the solution humans create eventually wear off, eventually die off, because no solution is true solution, because solution is created by the thought. You see, first of all, the problem is created by the mind. You see, mind creates the problem, and the mind is asking for a mind to create solution for you. It's like you cut yourself with a knife and you ask knife to heal you. You see. Angela McLam. Hello, Angela. Thanks for joining. Namaste. Angela writes, I would love to know if I am on the right path. I believe I have found one of my soulmates. I have waited so long. Angela, in the reality, there is no right or wrong path. You see, whatever path you're taking, it will take you to your source eventually. See, eventually you are longing to the source, to recognizing the source, to experience the source, to see the source. And you're asking me this path and this path is right, is wrong, is created by the thought, because you are conditioned or imposed by the society this way, and that thought is telling you this is the right way, and the thought is telling you this is the wrong way, and you try to fit yourself into the right way imposed upon you by the society, given to you by the society, that condition. So you try to fit yourself in the condition, and you go to that path, and you'll realize, wait a minute, that path wasn't right path, because that's the nature of the thought. It will give you idea you're not on the right path. And then what is the right path? You ask for that, and some event happens to your life. Either you're sick, or you have separated from loved ones, or you have a tragedy in life. Your marriage fails, your love fails, whatever fails, then you come back again to the source. You see, because all your life what you're searching for is coming to the source, and from the source everything, the relations can be created naturally. And in that natural relationship, even the relationship doesn't work, you're not sad. And even the real relation works, that is fine, that continues. But if it doesn't, then you're never sad or unhappy, you see. And the right path and the wrong path is again created by the mind. But when you come to the source, when you let the source guide you, there is no, it cannot be wrong path. And all your life you're seeking to be in the center. See, you say the center is recognizing the source, coming to the source. Pan Ulla Der Gustos. Hello Pan, thanks for joining. Namaste. Pan writes, any thoughts on how to contact a food addiction? How to combat? Any thoughts on how to combat a food addiction? Ice cream is my downfall. It's almost a sexual thing. Ice cream tastes good because it's full of sugar, you see. And some people like sugar, some people don't. But most people like sugar, you see, and sugar is sort of addictive, isn't it? Because see, when you have sugar, it gives you good feeling. It gives you that buzz. It gives you like you have intelligent. See, sugar is actually intelligent, isn't it? Wait a minute, my iPad just died. Oh, there it is. So without the iPad, I cannot look at your comments. So yeah, without the sugar, then that energy that you feel is lost. You see, so certainly that demands your attention. That demands a craving, because now what is happening is it is going into a thought level. See, thought is demanding that. Thought is wanting more sugar, because thought likes the idea that you are powerful. Thought likes the idea that you have energy. You see, so when thought likes that, because it can prosper, it can itself fortified, it can itself be fortified, then thought demands more sugar. You see, because thought is demanding that. But when you give up, in one point, it may give you sugar, may give you diabetic, sugar may give you other disease like cancer, or other. Sugar gives many diseases according to scientists. Then when that happens, then there is no. Then you try to cut yourself from sugar. Even now, I think you're trying to cut yourself from the sugar by reading that some of the articles researchers post on online or on the books or in a magazine. So the craving again is coming from your thought. And when you give attention to the source, the thought falls up, and there is no demand for that craving. You see, so that's why Moksha Mukti is pointing you to give your attention to the source here and now, in this present moment, where you can experience the source. The source, when you connect to the source, body will tell you whether you need it or you don't need it. And when you first, let's say, cut down on your ice cream, cut down on your sugar, what happens? Your body you may feel weak. You may not be able to do things that you used to do, because now that sugar is giving you energy. The sugar seems like giving you more intelligence. You see, it seems like you're more intelligent, and it seems like you have more energy, because that is created by the sugar. And when you cut that down, you feel weak. You feel, you are not able to do the things that you want to do. But if you stay with it for a couple of days and stay with the source, that you'll see, that you'll be fine without ice cream, without a lot of sugar. I'm reading your comment here. Dinesh writes, how can you confirm yoga is artificial path if you have not traveled journey other path? Isn't it linguistic? Well, you can believe whatever you want to believe. If you think yoga is a natural path, do it. And I've said this to many other people like yourself. Let's talk in about 5 years or 10 years. You mentioned mushroom head. Leland Cooper writes, you mentioned mushroom head. I attached 6 to that comment. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I love your what is that word? I can read that word. Dipate, or what are you writing there? Well, yeah. Certainly, when you think about certain things, that sort of becomes your habit. You see, because you're dominated by the thought, and when you think about one subject too much, that thought repeats and repeats and becomes dominated. It almost goes to your core, and whatever someone says, someone tells you, then you identify yourself to that because you're thinking too much on that. So what Moksha Mukti is pointing you to give attention to the source, not to the thought. Even for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, observe the thought. Observe the thought that is appearing in a mind about whatever that you're thinking. Observe that thought. Christina Olden writes, did I make the right choice? Will this situation work itself out in the near future? Been waiting for a while. Thank you, Moksha. Namaste. Yeah, Kristen, were you asking about that earlier? Christina, were you asking about the soulmate that you thought you found the soulmate? Are you asking about that? Again, there is no right or wrong choice in the reality. Whatever choice you are making, ultimately you are wanting to recognize the source, wanting to experience the source, wanting to see the source. You see, that is it. All the choice you are making, ultimately you are seeking that. And there is no right or wrong choice. The right or wrong choice is defined by the mind, defined by the conditioned mind. This is how the society conditioned you. This is how you're conditioned. That is telling you right or wrong. So any path you take, ultimately you will come to the source, because source will demand your attention. Not like thought. Thought is powerful. It demands your attention immediately. Immediately it demands your attention. Not the source. Source is loving. It just lets you go, and ultimately, when the children is left from the parents, children will ultimately want to come back to the parents. Similarly, you want to come back to the source, recognizing the source, experience the source. You see. And when you put your attention to the source, whatever path you take, whatever decision you make, will be the right decision for you. You see. Roy and writes, if thought creates problems, then source is the answer. Or are we made up of source, which is found on a higher plane, to which we must aspirato? Is that a typo or? Well, in the source there is really no question or answer. You see, thought creates problem because 90% of the time thought is the fastest, thought is cruel, thought is negative, thought is critical, and thought is going on its own. And so there is a problem. Thought is happening like that, right? Because it is giving you a craving for ice cream, it is making you super sexual, it is making you insecure about your love life, it is making you depressed, it is making you unhappy. See, that's all created by the thought. And you see, as long as you give your attention to the thought tries to come up with a solution, and it sucks you into this whirlpool, you see. And when you become powerless, because now you have given power to the thought, and thought is powerful, and thought is doing all that. And what Moksha Mukti is pointing you to, give your attention to the source, where thought is not powerful, thought is observing, the source is observing, thought is appearing and disappearing, just like the cloud in the sky. You see? And it comes and goes. and you're not attached to the thought, because now thought is telling you many things. Thought is telling you you're not happy. Thought is making you anxious. Thought is making you angry. Thought is making you jealous. Thought is doing all that. And when you give attention to the source, then, and Moksha Mukti says possibility, because when there is a possibility, when you give attention, there is a possibility, because when you may not be actually giving attention to the source. You may be actually you think you're giving attention to the source, but you're giving attention to the thought. See, when that happens, there is no possibility of creating, infinite possibility for you. There is not possibility for you to create miracle for you. There's not possibility for you to experience the source when you give attention to the thought, thinking that you're giving attention to the source through thinking. You see, that's why Moksha Mukti points to give effort, even for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, to 1 minute, 10 minutes, however long you can. Bring your attention to the source. Daniela Miorich. Hello, Daniela. Thanks for joining again. Nice to have you. How are you? Namaste. Daniela writes, I find so much peace listening to you and your advice. Namaste, my friend. Namaste. So-called experience of the peace is experience in the source, in the recognition of the source. That is the real peace. And the other peace that humans think, or people think, is the synthetic peace, or the mind-created peace, you see. And many people think that the peace is like there is no noise, you're in a quiet place, Such peace is available to you in the night time when there is nobody around, And many people assume that's the peace. And some people assume when there are no more thinking in the mind, there is peaceful. Like, you're not agitated. But that is not the real peace. That is the comfort of the peace. Moksha Mukti is just pointing you the differences between the real peace and the pseudo peace. Well, I'm just saying that in terms of the language, because even you're in the peace, there could be thought in your head. Even you can be in the peace when there are a train passing by. You can even in the peace when the airplane passing by. You see, because the peace is experiencing the source. When you experience the source, you are peaceful. Angela Miklem. Is my question one you can answer? Angela, what is your question? Did you already ask a question? So you ask, I would love to know if I am on the right path. That was a question from Angela. Angela, I have already spoke on that question. Your question, I have spoken on that question earlier. Again, there is no right path or wrong path in the reality. Moksha Mukti has already pointed out. He is simply pointing you to give your attention to the source here and now. Be here and now, and the source itself will guide you. See, you can go to many experts, and experts will tell you, do this, do that. This is the right way, this is the wrong way. They'll give you many information. Moksha Mukti does not give you information. What he gives is pointer for you to give your attention to the source. So when you give your attention to the source itself will guide you. And in the reality, there is no right path or the wrong path. When you come to the source, you know who is your soulmate. And even if you find a soulmate, your experience is not going to be all pleasant all the time. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be love and hatred, a feeling of love and hatred both stemming. Even when you're with a soulmate, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be challenges, even when you're with a soulmate. You see. But when you give attention to the source, all the problem, all the challenges that you face in relationship, you can handle it. Catalin Kandurat. Hello, Catalin. Thanks for joining. She says namaste. Namaste. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Thanks for commenting. Leland Cooper writes, your hair is absolutely gorgeous. I wish I could get mine to do that. Okay. Yeah, it's just took a shower before this talk, so maybe that's why, Thanks for your comment. Thanks for your compliment. Roy and writes, so I can assume I am connected to the source, which equals heart without thought. Not necessarily. That's not what Moksha Mukti is pointing out, Royan. What Moksha Mukti is pointing out, that give you attention to the source, who are in the source, you experience your heart, you experience your mind, you experience everything in harmony. That is the experience of the source. In a harmony, total harmony. You are harmony with your mind, you are harmony with your body, you are harmony with your heart. And you are observing your feelings in the heart, you are observing your thoughts appearing and disappearing. Thought is saying this, that. Thought is saying, I am lonely. Thought is saying, thought is creating fear in you. What if that person is not the right person? You see, thought is creating that. And that is dependent on the imposition, condition imposed upon you by your society, by your knowledge, by your education. And Royan writes, thank you. You're welcome, Royan. Moksha Mukti is not telling you anything. Moksha Mukti is not giving you a lecture. Moksha Mukti is not giving you speech. He is simply pointing you to put your attention to the source, here and now. See, even your body is tremendously intelligent. It knows how to heal itself. It knows how to take care of itself. It can endure a lot of things. It can do a lot of things. Each cell in the body is intelligent. But the thought comes up and say, you're lower than I am. I am higher because I am a thought. I can do many things. I can put a man on the moon. What can you do? That is thought is saying that. And my iPad, this Facebook just kicked me out. iPad just kicked out the Facebook. So far I've been speaking for looks like 55 minutes, and the battery usually lasts for 1 hour to 1.5 hours. So between 1 hour and 1.5 hours, if the battery dies or there's a disconnection, that means the battery is dead and Moksha Mukti is no longer, then the session ends. That will be the end of the session. And Moksha Mukti gonna go on the iPad and say, batteries died, this session ended, we'll talk tomorrow. Any questions, comment, concern that you wrote after the live session ended, that Moksha Mukti shall speak to it tomorrow or the next time when he comes live. So those of you who just joined, this is Moksha Mukti Apollo. Thanks for joining. Namaste. And simply type your questions, comment, concerns on the comment section, and Moksha Mukti shall speak regarding that. And Moksha Mukti is not going to speak in all the comments, only specifically from your direct experience from life. And he's only going to speak from your direct experience of life. Caitlin Kandurat writes, Namaste all time. I think what happens now is just Source telling us to point. We all learn now. Thank you, Source. You experience. There is in the Source there is nothing to learn, because Source knows everything there is to know. The learning is only for the society, only for the comprehensive collective knowledge we have collected, and based on that there is a learning, because is the vast pool of knowledge available to you. And what Moksha Mukti points out, that knowledge is just imagination, someone's imagination, concrete imagination, solid imagination, based on logic, sequence, all products of the thought. And based on that, there is learning. But in the Source, there is only experiencing. Well, maybe you learn to give your attention to the Source. Once you learn to give your attention to the Source, I think that's the only learning there. And even you already know that, you don't need to learn it, you just need to maybe remember it, or just happen to you naturally, just like it happens to Moksha Mukti. So Caitlin, thanks for sharing your comment. Namaste. Lilian Cooper Rice, thank you for answering my questions today. See you next time. Namaste. Thanks for joining, Lilian. Namaste. Roy Ann writes, Namaste. Namaste, Roy. Any questions, comment, concerns? Simply type your questions, comment. Moksha Mukti shall speak regarding that. Ignacio Soto Caneo. Ignacio, you're back. Hello. Thanks for joining. Namaste. Ignacio writes, who you represent? Moksha Mukti does not represent anything. He is simply pointing you to give your attention to the Source. The Source is already available to you now. When you give attention to the Source, you create the possibility for you to experience that, recognize that, see that. And Moksha Mukti is pointing you to that. Reena Lakhan Sharma. Hello, Reena. Thanks for joining. Namaste. Hello from Modesto. Modesto. Where is Modesto, by the way? I have to look that up on my Google. So Ignacio writes, what do you teach? For some of you, this may appear as teaching, and many of you reported back to Moksha Mukti that you are teaching us something. You are teaching us to study ourselves, or teaching us to point to the source. You see, so many of you are saying that. But Moksha Mukti is not teaching you anything. He is simply pointing you to give your attention to the source. The source is already available to you now. The source knows everything there is to know. The source is